I'm not watching this, I whispered to myself. But I didn't move. She didn't even glance in my direction. Not once. Not even as she slid her fingers between his, slowly, deliberately, like it was something rehearsed. I could feel people looking at me, waiting for my reaction, but all I could do was clutch the side of the catering table like it was the only thing keeping me from falling straight through the rooftop tiles. The lights were soft and golden, the music low and swaying. Someone laughed near the bar. A champagne cork popped. It could have been any normal Friday night gathering. But not for me. No, for me it was the moment my wife decided she was done pretending. Her voice, syrupy and fake, cut through the buzz of casual conversations. Relax, darling. It's just one night. Just one night. As if that was supposed to make it better. As if the way she looked at him wasn't enough already. The way her fingers lingered on his wrist. The way she leaned in and whispered something that made him laugh and tighten his grip on her hand. And all I could do was watch. You ever been so embarrassed you couldn't even feel your legs? Like your body just stopped sending signals because it's too ashamed to keep functioning? That was me, standing in wrinkled khakis, holding a half-eaten cracker with goat cheese, staring at my wife of 6 years as she danced with a man I didn't even know existed until tonight. No warning, no fight, no dramatic build-up, just betrayal, out loud, on display, for everyone. I should have left, walked straight out, found the elevator, taken the long ride down in silence, and driven home alone like a sane, self-respecting human being. But I didn't, because she smiled at me again, not with guilt, not with fear, but with certainty, like she knew I wouldn't do a thing. And she was right, because I didn't. Not yet. I don't even remember how long I stood there. Time felt like it folded in on itself, like someone pressed pause on everything around me except them. The way she moved in his arms, it wasn't just dancing. It was a message meant for me. It said, I don't need to lie anymore. Every sway of her hips, every laugh she gave him, every touch to his chest. It was a public execution, and I was the condemned man watching his own sentence carried out with hors d'oeuvres and jazz music playing in the background. And everyone saw it. That's the worst part. People weren't whispering. They weren't intervening. They just watched. Like they'd been expecting it. Like maybe they knew something I didn't. Like maybe I'd been the punchline of an inside joke that had been going on far longer than I realized. I tried to play it cool at first. I poured myself another drink, hands shaking, and I even chuckled at some dumb story someone told about getting locked out of their apartment. But all I could think was, she's still holding his hand. She hasn't looked at me once. Not once. I walked to the edge of the roof just to breathe. The city looked like it was mocking me. Thousands of glowing windows, millions of lives. And I was the idiot who brought his wife to her own coming-out party as an adulteress. When I turned back around, they were gone. My heart stopped. I scanned the crowd. She was gone. He was gone. I felt something snap inside my chest, a pressure that had been building for weeks, maybe months, finally giving way. I didn't even think. I just moved. I searched the guest rooms, the hallway, the elevator vestibule, and when I opened the door near the coat room, I found her, alone, adjusting her lipstick in the mirror. No Jace, just her. She looked surprised to see me, but not guilty, just mildly inconvenienced. You okay? She asked, dabbing the corner of her mouth like I was interrupting something unimportant. I didn't answer. I just stared at her reflection, the same face I'd kissed goodnight for over 2,000 days. And now I didn't recognize it. You left with him? I finally said. She smirked. I went to fix my lipstick. You were holding his hand. So? You were holding a plate of crackers. Doesn't mean you were in love with them. I couldn't believe it. The coldness. The casualness. Like I was some insecure intern at her office party, not her husband. I need to ask you something, I said. Are you sleeping with him? She didn't answer. She just walked past me, slow and effortless, heels clicking like gunshots down the marble hallway. And then, over her shoulder, she said it again. Relax, Gerald. It's just one night. That line again. Like it was rehearsed. Like it was her license to ruin everything and still pretend she had the moral high ground. But here's the thing. She thought I was just going to let it go. She thought I was going to follow her back to the party, tail between my legs, and pretend like nothing happened. Like I hadn't just watched her undress our marriage in front of everyone we knew. She was wrong. Because that night didn't end the way she planned. Not even close. She didn't come home until almost 2 a.m. I was still awake, of course, sitting in the living room, lights off, staring at the muted TV like it might give me answers I didn't already have. Her coat was still hanging by the door, which meant she'd gone somewhere after the party. Somewhere she hadn't planned to tell me about. When the lock turned, I didn't move. I just listened. Click. Shuffle. Pause. She stood in the doorway for a moment, probably wondering if I was asleep, maybe rehearsing some lie in her head. Then she exhaled, long and light, and walked into the kitchen like she was coming back from a yoga class, not from emotionally curb-stomping her husband at a public event. I finally spoke, my voice dry from hours of silence. Did you have fun? She jumped slightly, not expecting me in the dark, then flicked on the kitchen light. Her makeup was smudged just enough to raise questions, and her dress hung lower on one shoulder than it had earlier. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. She pulled the strap up without saying a word. I stayed to help Penelope clean up, she said flatly, reaching for a glass. At 1:45 in the morning, she filled the glass with water. There were broken glasses everywhere. Some drunk guy knocked over the gift table. I nodded slowly, like I was buying it. I wasn't. She didn't even ask me how I was doing. She didn't apologize for humiliating me in front of people we've known for years. Didn't acknowledge what she did with Jace, how she held his hand like a trophy she'd just won. She just sipped her water and asked if I'd fed the cat. That's when I realized something. She had already decided this was over. Maybe not officially, maybe not on paper, but emotionally, she was gone. She had crossed some private line in her head, and whatever guilt she used to carry had been surgically removed somewhere between the champagne toast and the after-party. But I wasn't ready to pretend. So I asked her again, "Are you seeing him?" She didn't lie this time. She just looked at me for a long moment, expressionless. Then, with the tiniest shrug, she said, "I don't know what I'm doing." That hit harder than any confession, because it meant she wasn't even conflicted anymore. It wasn't love or guilt or regret. It was indifference. She didn't care enough to deny it. Didn't even feel the need to soften the blow. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to throw something. But instead, I just sat there. Pathetic, quiet, small. She walked past me again, just like at the party, and disappeared down the hall. A few minutes later, I heard the shower running, like she was washing away the night. Washing away him. And me? I stayed right there on the couch, fists clenched, wondering when exactly I'd stopped being her husband and started being just another piece of furniture she no longer needed. But I wasn't going to wait around and rot like a leftover. No. If she wanted to treat our marriage like a disposable party favor, I was going to give her the cleanup she didn't expect, starting with what I found on her phone the next morning. The next morning, she was still asleep when I slipped out of bed. I didn't sleep at all. I just laid there, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling, hearing the click of her heels in my head over and over again. The way she took his hand, the way she said it like a joke. "Relax, darling. It's just one night." I don't know what I was hoping for. Maybe some sign that she felt bad, that she regretted something. But when I walked into the kitchen, she'd already set her coffee mug next to mine. Two perfect circles of routine, sitting side by side like nothing had happened. But the silence between us? It was loud, crushing. She came in wearing my old hoodie, like that was supposed to mean something, and mumbled something about needing to respond to work emails. I nodded and watched her take her phone and disappear into the bedroom. 10 minutes later, she came out to grab her charger and left her phone sitting unlocked on the bed. And I hesitated. I'm not proud of it. I know what people will say. If you need to go through your partner's phone, the relationship's already over. But here's the thing. It was over. I just hadn't been invited to the funeral yet. So I picked it up. I didn't even have to go far. Her messages were clean. Suspiciously clean. No texts from Jace. No photos. Not a single notification from him in her inbox. But her phone kept buzzing, and that's when I noticed it. The name Amber. Dozens of messages. Way too many for someone who's just a coworker. I opened the thread, and that's when my heart started hammering. Amber wasn't Amber. Amber was him. I don't know if she thought I'd never look, or if she just assumed I was too weak to act on it. But there it was. Their entire affair, hidden in plain sight under a fake name. Jokes about our little secret. Memes that didn't make sense to anyone but them. And voice notes. God help me. Voice notes of him calling her my girl. I dropped the phone like it burned. She was in the hallway when I looked up. Just standing there. Not shocked. Not ashamed. Just watching me. Like this was inevitable. Like she'd already prepared for this moment. You weren't supposed to see that, she said softly. That was it. That's all she said. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Just, you weren't supposed to see that. Like I'd walked in on her brushing her teeth, not betraying everything we built for 7 years. I asked her one question. Just one. Was it ever real for you? She blinked. A pause. Then, at the start, maybe. But lately, I don't know. I felt like I was drowning. So that's it. That's how she justified it. She was drowning. So she grabbed a lifeboat with a jawline and a motorcycle. And what was I? The anchor? She walked past me again. Didn't cry. Didn't fight. Just left the room like a guest checking out of a hotel. I sat there, gripping the edge of the bed, surrounded by everything I thought made us real. Our pictures on the wall, the socks she always stole, the faint scent of her perfume on my pillow. And it all felt fake. But I wasn't going to confront her again. Not with words. That afternoon, I took off work. I made calls. I started something I never thought I'd do. Because if she wanted this marriage to be disposable, I was going to make sure it cost her everything. She thought I was going to yell, or cry, or throw something. She thought I'd fall apart like a heartbroken sitcom husband who begs for answers while the audience laughs at his pain. But instead, I just went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where you're stunned and numb. The kind of quiet where you're watching, planning. She left for work the next morning like it was any other day, keys jingling, perfume trailing behind her, not a single trace of guilt in her posture. She even kissed my cheek. That kiss, cold and mechanical, was the final confirmation I needed. She wasn't in this marriage anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. And the worst part? I blamed myself. I kept wondering if I was too boring, too routine, too soft. I wasn't a Jace. I didn't have abs or a bike or a voice that made women bend at the knees. I had spreadsheets, dental supplies, and a loyalty no one valued anymore. But I still had one thing left, my patience. I took the day off again. Told my boss I wasn't feeling well. And the truth is, I wasn't. I was sick of feeling powerless. So I started doing something I never thought I'd be capable of. I started documenting. I went through our shared laptop, backed up her messages, took screenshots. I recorded voice notes she left for him. Yes, voice notes. She once called him her safest risk. That one nearly made me punch the kitchen wall, but I didn't. I just saved it, categorized it. Because if she was going to lie with a smile, I was going to build truth with receipts. I found a hidden folder on our cloud drive. Photos she thought were deleted. The two of them at a lake I'd never been to. Her in a swimsuit I'd never seen. Him behind her, arms around her waist, both looking smug, like they'd stolen something and gotten away with it. They had no idea who I was becoming. That evening, she came home like always. Threw her purse on the counter. Took off her heels. Asked what I wanted for dinner. And I answered her calmly. I even made a joke. She laughed. She had no idea she was eating beside a man building the most polite detonation plan imaginable. I started being better, sweeter, attentive. She noticed. After 3 days, she stopped texting Amber. After a week, she came into the living room and sat next to me like she used to, head on my shoulder, asking if I wanted to restart. But I wasn't restarting. I was rewiring. Because this wasn't about saving our marriage anymore. This was about showing her who she left behind while she chased a fantasy. This was about setting the stage so when it all came crashing down, she wouldn't even know what hit her. She had made a show out of our undoing. I was going to make art out of the aftermath. And the first stroke of the brush? Inviting someone unexpected to dinner. It was supposed to be just another quiet Tuesday. She came home humming something from the radio, dropped her keys in the dish by the door, kicked off her shoes, and asked what we were having for dinner. I told her I was making pasta. She lit up like I was trying again. Like maybe I had finally given up being suspicious. That was the whole point. She poured herself a glass of wine and asked if I wanted to eat just the two of us or maybe in front of the TV. I told her I had already invited someone. She froze for half a second, just long enough. Then she tried to play it cool. Oh, who? I told her, you'll see. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang. She was still barefoot, her glass of wine half full. She stood behind me as I opened the door. And the moment she saw who was standing there, her body tensed like someone had thrown ice water down her spine. It wasn't Jace. It was his wife. Yes, he had one. He wasn't just some reckless fling. He was married. And she never told me. Of all the lies she laid down like stepping stones over the last few months, this one hit the hardest. Because it meant that her betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was calculated. Strategic. Two people, both married, using each other to escape the ordinary. I had reached out to his wife after finding her number in one of the saved contacts hidden under a fake name. I told her who I was, what I'd seen, what I'd heard. I sent her one recording. Just one. She said nothing. Just asked me for an address. Now here she was, Marla. Short, sharp, not here to cry. Her face said it all. She didn't come for closure. She came for war. Clorinda's face went pale, and she stammered something, some half-formed excuse about not knowing she'd be invited, about how this wasn't what it looked like. But it was exactly what it looked like. We sat at the table. The air was thick. Clorinda tried to smile, but her lips kept twitching. Marla didn't touch the food. She kept her hands folded, elbows on the table, eyes locked on my wife like she was memorizing every crack in her carefully crafted performance. Then Marla dropped the first bomb. I'm sure you've told him everything. About the hotel. About the cabin upstate. About the fake business trips. She looked at me. Did she mention the Valentine's trip? My kids were at home with the flu while he was sending your wife heart emojis and shirtless mirror pics. Clorinda pushed her plate away. Gerald, I didn't know she. But I cut her off. Calm. Quiet. I didn't ask if you knew. I asked why you lied. She tried to shift the blame. Said Jace told her they were separated. That he promised her things. That she felt seen. Loved. Free. The usual garbage. But nothing landed. Nothing stuck. She could see it in my face. I was no longer the man she could talk down like a child. Marla eventually stood. She didn't say goodbye. She just looked at Clorinda and said, You should know. He's cheating on you now too. With a Pilates instructor in Oak Ridge. Then she walked out. Clorinda didn't follow. She just sat there, stunned, shaking, like her castle of lies had collapsed faster than she ever imagined. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because the next morning, I left her a letter. And I didn't sign it with my name. She woke up to the sound of the shower running. Except I wasn't in it. She called my name once. Then again. Nothing. She stepped into the kitchen expecting to see me making coffee. The pot was cold. The mug rack was missing one of the cups, the one I always used, the one with the cracked handle she hated and I refused to throw away. She opened the fridge. Half empty. The leftovers were gone. The orange juice she liked, untouched. And then she saw it. A plain white envelope. Folded once. No name. No decoration. Just placed exactly where she'd find it, right on top of her planner. Inside wasn't some long-winded goodbye or an angry list of accusations. No, you broke me speech. No final begging plea. I had already wasted months trying to explain my hurt. This letter was quiet. Precise. Surgical. It read, You said it was just one night. But I counted them. One by one. While you laughed at my silence. While you whispered lies into another man's ear. While I made excuses for the emptiness that grew between us like mold under paint. You took my patience for weakness. You wore my forgiveness like armor. You thought I wouldn't walk away because I didn't scream. But silence doesn't mean surrender. I stopped fighting because I was already gone. You just didn't notice. So here's my answer. I'm not staying. Not for one more night. That was it. That's all she got. I didn't block her number. I didn't scream in text messages. I didn't post anything online. I let the silence stretch, long and heavy, like a rope she now had to untangle on her own. And from that moment forward, I became a ghost inside the life we used to share. I moved into a furnished rental across town. No one knew, not even my closest friends. I told no one where I went because I didn't want her showing up with apologies rehearsed in front of a mirror. I didn't want closure. I didn't want tears. I wanted distance. Clean, uninterrupted distance. But 3 days later, she found me anyway. She didn't knock. She banged, fists hammering against the door like she could force her way back into my life with sheer panic. When I opened the door, her eyes were red, but not from sadness. From confusion. From fear. She thought I'd break down by now. She thought I'd at least yell at her. She couldn't understand why I wasn't fighting. That's when it hit her. I wasn't mad anymore. I was finished. She stood there in silence, mouth trembling, clutching the letter I wrote like it was a ransom note. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, she whispered. And I said, That's the problem. You meant for it to happen. You just didn't mean to lose. Her voice cracked as she said my name. I shut the door before she could say it again. And this time, she didn't knock again. Not that day. But she would. Because the final part of my plan, It hadn't even started yet. I didn't hear from her for a week after that final knock. No calls, no texts, no begging voicemails, just silence. And I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd accepted it. That I was gone. That there was nothing left to fix, no game left to play. But then, out of nowhere, came the email. Subject line, "Can we please talk?" I didn't answer it. Then came the flowers. 24 red roses sent to my office with a note that read, "I remember you hate roses, but I didn't know what else to do. Please." I gave the bouquet to the receptionist. The silence started working. On her this time. By week 3, she left a handwritten letter at my door. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The words I waited years to hear would only matter to the man I used to be. The one who tolerated half-love, who let himself be benched in his own marriage. That man was gone. And in his place was someone I hadn't met in years, me. The real me. Not the man who was constantly trying to keep peace, to be enough, to apologize for being too soft, too available, too loyal. The man I became now didn't beg to be chosen. He chose himself. I changed my number. Quietly. Moved again. Gave no forwarding address. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her regret. The truth was, she already had both, and neither would bring her peace. And me? I got peace. I started saying yes to things I used to avoid. I took a weekend photography class. I flew to Denver just to see snow fall from a mountain peak. I adopted a senior rescue dog and named him Baxter. He doesn't judge me for being quiet. He just lies next to me and reminds me that loyalty still exists. I started over. And it wasn't glamorous or dramatic or viral. It was slow, real. It was the kind of healing that doesn't get applause, but builds strength in places no one can see. And then, one night, at a bookstore downtown, I met someone. Not planned, not forced. She laughed at a joke I mumbled to myself about overpriced bookmarks, and the way she smiled didn't remind me of anyone. It wasn't recovery. It wasn't rebound. It was new. She didn't ask about my past. She asked about my favorite film score. About the weirdest snack I liked as a kid. About whether I thought people could actually fall in love again after falling apart. And for the first time in a long time, I said yes. Yes, they can. Because I did. Not with her, not yet, but with myself. Clorinda once told me, it's just one night. And maybe she was right. Because one night, that night, changed everything. But not the way she thought. I didn't lose my world. I found the door out of hers.